All righty. Again, this is our info session for Leadership Tomorrow. We're so happy you're here with us today.
Minutes.
If you can, thank you. Go ahead and mute yourself. We're gonna maybe next slide, Megan. This is just our agenda for this afternoon. We're gonna do some introductions of myself and the LT staff, overview of Leadership Tomorrow, the flagship program, and the application process. Then you're going to hear from two of our alumni, and then we'll have some space for Q&A. You can feel free to, drop your questions in the chat during the conversation if you want to make sure you don't forget those. But we will be have some space at the end for that. So, introductions. I'm Aaron Parker. I'm the chair of the selection committee this year. And for LT staff today, you have Sue, who is our executive director, and she is LT'24. And Megan is LT staff, LT senior communications and development manager. Oh, and I'm LT 2017. And I'll pass it to Sue.
All right. Well, so glad to see you all here today and glad that you're interested in learning more about Leadership Tomorrow. We're going to start with what the organization's missions, vision, and values are, a little bit about the benefits we think you'll get from participating, then some information about what the program structure looks like and who's in the cohort, a little bit of information about how to apply. We'll get to hear from two LT alums, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So Leadership Tomorrow's mission is to educate, inspire, connect, and catalyze cross-sector leaders who work together for collective impact. And we, with many, many other organizations, aspire to this vision of a resilient and equitable region where people from all communities and identities thrive. As we live into our mission with the hope of creating this vision, we act and behave according to our 6 values: accountability, anti-racism and social justice, belonging, collective leadership, community stewardship, and curiosity and humility. Each of these is defined on our website. I encourage you to go to leadershiptomorrowseattle.org to see what we mean when we use those words. And I would add that I think what's unique about Leadership Tomorrow is the combination of those 6 values. It's the mix of all of them together that makes this organization so special. Next year will be our 40th class, our 40th year. It'll be a special year. And we are looking for people who are interested in sharing and demonstrating these values. So excited to have you consider being a part of our 2,500 alumni leader community. Next slide. If you participate in Leadership Tomorrow, we think you'll get a number of different benefits from it. In particular, what our alumni tell us is that they build lasting, lifelong relationships across sectors, across the region. We hear that they have strengthened their connection to Puget Sound and feel much more knowledgeable about the issues, challenges, and opportunities facing us collectively in our community. They tell us that they feel like their leadership potential has deepened and strengthened. People report building their confidence, finding their voice, and being more able to envision how their leadership can directly impact the community. And finally, participants tell us that their experience through LT helps them deepen their racial equity skills, particularly by learning how to identify systemic inequities and then shape a future world that values belonging, collaboration, and human dignity. So I'm going to just touch a little bit more on each of these benefits. The building lasting communities and relationships, there's a magic to LT, and I believe the magic is the people. You'll meet people you would not have met otherwise, talented, committed leaders, eager to be more effective in the work that they do in their organizations and in the community. The opportunity to learn from each other and develop trusted relationships is an absolute highlight of this program. You spend 10 months talking about issues that matter with people who will be solving those issues in the future, if not now. And you join a community of 2,500 alumni who are leaders and influencers around Puget Sound. Secondly, let's talk a little bit more about deepening your connection to Puget Sound. We use the Seattle Foundation's framework for a healthy community as a way to frame our conversation about regional issues. Each month, you learn about one of the 7 elements of a healthy community: arts, environment, economy, neighborhoods, etc. You learn about how these elements are interconnected and how we can produce strategies and solutions that will address the disparate inequities that are found in each of those elements. At the end of this program, you'll understand the complexity and nuances of issues, as well as hear from leaders who are working on solutions, leaders that are brought into the program and leaders that are in the class. Thirdly, it's an opportunity to expand your leadership potential. I want to be clear that this organization, our mission is to focus on community leadership skills, not organizational leadership skills. So this is not a program where you're going to be learning about public speaking, delegation, supervision. Instead, we focus on what does it take to bring change to a community. You'll learn about working in a group without an identified leader. You'll learn about how to listen deeply to people with different perspectives. You'll practice persuading and advocating for issues you care about. We'll talk about what it means to be a servant leader and approach power and leadership with the idea of serving the common good. We'll talk about how to effectively engage and empower others. Those are the kinds of leadership skills that this program focuses on. And you'll have an opportunity to practice those skills in a low-risk, non-work environment. There are opportunities to learn and grow real-time, confronting healthy conflict and practicing ways to move through challenges that arise in our diverse learning community. And then finally, you will deepen and practice racial equity skills. Our vision is a community where everybody thrives. And addressing racism and advancing racial equity are necessary steps to move toward this vision. The cohort that you'd be a part of is a multiracial learning community with people who bring different lived experiences and are at different places on their racial equity journeys. We seek to meet everyone at their learning edges. In the flagship program, we'll discuss the history and impacts of racism and how working with others to advance racial equity is central to community leadership in our region. We also do take some time throughout the year to meet in race-based caucuses to support folks in their racial equity journey in another way. All right, Aaron, turn it back to you to talk about the structure of the program itself.
All righty, thank you, Sue. So as you can see on the screen, you have the main elements of the program. You have orientation, the fall retreat. You'll have your monthly program days, like Sue said, that's built on the Seattle Foundation's, the structure from them. You have your mid-year retreat, your leadership labs, and individual learning. So it's, the longer events like program days and retreats, those will be in person, and the shorter events, usually in the evening, will be like lab night, orientation, things like that. Those will be on Zoom. In terms of the orientation, you're going to meet with the cohort, review program expectations, set the stage for doing work around race and racism for the year, get you started off. In the fall retreat is leadership perspectives and frameworks, establish your personal learning goals, build a community of belonging, reflect on your own racial and equity experience. Then we have program days. That's one a month. And that includes some experiential activities, role plays, small group discussions, race-based caucusing, case studies, speakers, and a wide variety of ways to engage you all. Then a mid-year retreat will focus on deepening the understanding of and confidence to address racial inequities. You have some space to practice having courageous conversations, and one of the most memorable aspects of the LT year for sure. And then the leadership labs, those are opportunities to practice your leadership in a small group. meet with leaders around the community, work on a community service project. And this is meant to be applied learning, a place to practice kind of what you've learned throughout the year or are learning. And then you have some individual learning. So there are several hours of pre-work before each monthly gathering. And that's really to help you kind of make sure that we're going into those monthly meetings with everybody having kind of the same foundational kind of understanding of the topic that we're going to be discussing. Next slide. All righty. So just giving kind of a breakdown of who's in the program. We look for 80 participants, and we want a good spread across the sectors: private, nonprofit, and public. And we're looking for 45% or more of the cohort will be people of color, and the age range is 25 to 60. And we're looking for those that are living or working around Puget Sound. Let's see. This is, and just some things to highlight. This is really one of the only programs where you meet and build relationships across sectors. Most leadership programs are really focused on usually one sector or one type of job, basically. And so this is a really good advantage of Leadership Tomorrow, is that you get to meet those leaders across the three sectors that I had mentioned there. And a huge piece is diversity for us in terms of race, age, industry, geography, and that makes the program really special, having that spread of people across the 80 participants. And so our goal is to create a learning community where everyone is challenged to think about things in new ways. And so it really is a wonderful program. I will say the retreats, while they are business, of course, it's always fun to get away and have a good time with your cohort. So there will be some fun involved, social time. And of course, there's social time still. I still connect with my classmates and other LT alum. It's a lot of fun. Although there's work to be done. So we get in there, do the work, and then of course we have to enjoy ourselves as well. Next slide. All righty. So as you see here, I'll just talk about the process. If you'd like to join this community, first step is you have to apply. And those applications will be online you have to apply online by April 3rd. After you apply, you'll receive an invitation to candidate orientation, which is April 4th at noon. This is where we'll talk more about what to expect during your interview. Attendance is not required, but it's highly recommended. And again, the reason you have that the candidate orientation to talk about the interview is everyone who applies gets an interview. And after you apply, the next step is participate in a 30-minute interview with three usually LT alum, but other community members that are part of the screening and selection committee. And the interviews are going to run between April 10th and May 10th. And again, everyone who applies receives an interview, because we're going to combine, it's equally weighted. The written application and the 30-minute interview are equally weighted. You have a group of folks on the selection committee that are going to review the application, and you have a group of folk that do the interviews, and then we put those scores together and select our cohorts. Let's see, next slide. And this is just speaking to a little bit more about what we're looking for in a candidate. So we're looking for the commitment to community engagement, looking for leadership in the area of influence, curiosity, so openness to multiple viewpoints and desire to broaden their perspective, willingness to work in a multiracial learning environment, engage with others at different stages in their learning journey, and deepen their personal role in advancing racial equity. I think that's an important piece to think about as you apply for a program like this, is that we're not only looking for people who have done all the work, been through all the other programs, and are, 10 miles ahead of everybody else. We're looking for those that have done the work. Some have done a little work, and some may have not done any work. And so you have to be open to having some of those conversations. And it definitely, oh, sorry. Whoops. phone call, sorry. And actually makes it I enjoyed my cohort, getting to know people, hearing how people think about things. That's why it's important to do that pre-work, because you do end up coming with that good foundation, but talking to people and how they viewed, what you either read or what video you watch is definitely an enjoyable time for me. Let's see. So we work hard to put together a diverse group of leaders, a group that is diverse in terms of like race, ethnicity, sector, geography. Again, the people you meet at LT would be one of the best parts of the program for sure. These are the characteristics we look for in a candidate, but all the interview and application questions map back to those 6 characteristics that Sue mentioned earlier. And again, go to the website is a great place to go get a lot of information. And you'll hear that over and over. Go to the website. But yeah, please do check out the website, and you can learn more about kind of what we're looking for and the values that we're looking for in our candidates. I believe I'm passing it to Sue.
Nope, it's to me,
I'm
Erin.
sorry, Megan.
No worries. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan. I'm the Senior Communications and Development Manager at Leadership Tomorrow. And I want to thank you for being here and for your interest in Leadership Tomorrow. So for my section, I'm going to share a few tips and recommendations to help you as you apply for LT. So first of all, I want to say that going through LT is a really meaningful experience for many of our participants. And it's most meaningful when people really have the time and the capacity to fully participate. So before you work on your application, I do recommend looking at the LT'24 program schedule on our website and making sure you're available for all of those key dates. And I want to highlight that orientation, the fall retreat, and mid-year retreat are all essential parts of the program that you don't want to miss those, and attendance is required. So if you have a wedding one of those weekends, or if you know you're going to be out of town, I do recommend just waiting this year to apply, and you can apply the following year. I also recommend, as Erin just said, to check out our website. The flagship program page gives a pretty good overview of the program and what you can expect from participating. So that will help you kind of figure out, if this is the right program for you, and it will also help you with your application. So as you work on your application, I want to highlight there are 4 short essays that you will write. And each of the essays, there's multiple parts to each essay question. So to help you get a better score, you want to make sure that you're responding to every part of the question. And then also try to be as detailed and specific as you can within those, there's a 300-word limit. So they're short essays, but try to get in as much detail as you can. Often what separates, a higher score from kind of a more middle of the road score is just the level of detail the person's provided. We also encourage you to be open and authentic when you're filling out the application. Part of the LT magic that we've talked about throughout this info session so far, it's because of the people, and the magic of LT is the people, and then also how open and vulnerable people are when we meet together. And we do encourage this openness to begin with the application. As the screening and selection committee is reviewing and scoring your application, they aren't scoring you based on whether they agree with your perspective or with your idea, but they do like to get to know you. So we do, value that openness. The way they are scoring your application is they are using those 6 characteristics that Erin talked about in the last slide. So do make sure to, those are on our website on the apply page. So I do recommend just checking those out and making sure you're familiar with them. And then finally, I want to stress that I highly recommend not waiting until the last minute to fill out your application. I have been at LT for 8.5 years. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I've gotten lots of calls over the years of folks, at 4:55, their internet crashed or their computer's broken, or like something always happens. So do yourself a favor and, get started early. You can start the application, you can save it, you can come back to it later. I do know people who start their application earlier do tend to score better than people who wait until the last minute. And then, so tuition is $5,500. We do offer financial aid if you work in the nonprofit or public sector, or if you are self-employed, not employed, or if you work for a small business. So the way financial aid works is we ask you to submit your financial aid request when you are completing your application. It's just a few basic questions. And then that request is completely confidential, and we don't even look at it until after the class is selected. So again, as a reminder, our applications are due April 3rd before 5 p.m. And if you go to our website on the apply page, there's a button that'll take you to the application. And there is a $75 application fee. If that fee is a burden at all, please just send me an email and we are happy to waive it. We really do not want cost to be a barrier at any point in this process. And then I also want to reiterate what Erin said, that we interview everybody who applies for LT. We don't screen anyone out, and the application and the interview are weighted equally. So it's really important to spend enough time on your application. So now I'm going to transition it over to Sue, who is going to introduce our alumni speakers and the next portion of our agenda. Sue?
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Erin. All right. Well, it's super interesting, I'm sure, to hear from LT staff and the chair of the Screening and Selection Committee, but most importantly is to hear from people who are in the program or have recently gone through the program. And today we get to hear from Hao and Tisha. They graduated in different years. Hao graduated in 2020. Tisha graduated in 2022. They are both back this year as coaches to the current class. So they've got a number of different perspectives that they can share with you based on their experiences with LT. We'll start with Hao and then move to Tisha, and then we will stop recording and entertain your questions. So go ahead and put those in the chat as we listen to Hao and then Tisha.
Oh, great. Thanks, Sue. And welcome, everybody. Thanks for providing me this moment to share my story. I'm sure you're all brought here to this moment via different pathways. My story is that I am a practicing architect. I was actually introduced to the LT program through my company in the private sector. And what was essentially put out in front of me by my colleagues at the time was, hey, there's an ROI on this, like you're a marketing person, it's a great networking opportunity, and really a great and fun program to go through, and also gives you this special status, this kind of like you're in the club with all these alumni, and like it is a great resource. And so that's how it was essentially framed for me. But in going through the program, I mean, I echo what Erin, Megan, and Sue had outlined. It is so much more. And I so appreciate it. It really had a profound impact on me. And so not only did I go through the program, I came back and coached, and this is my second year of coaching. And I have so appreciated everything, not only that LT offers as a program, but all the different people I meet and everything they are able to share with me. You know, coming out of the program, coming out of the coaching meetings, you know, I learned more and more about my blind spots, you know, everything from microaggressions that I wasn't aware of to other elements that it's really hard to tease out in your professional environment. LT offers a place where that can be discussed more openly. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy to hear stuff. And as Megan outlined, there will be time investment and effort as part of this. And the more you put in, the more you will get out. Going through the program has also navigated me in my work. I'm sure many of you in your industries are working with DEI efforts, or are at least aware of that. And so this just helped me better understand how I could contribute to those efforts in the companies that I have been a part of. And not only be a stronger voice, but also be an advocate for equity in our diverse community. You know, we all want to be part of the solution to systemic racism, and LT offers you components and resources to support that. One of the biggest, sort of most inspiring parts of going through the program was interviewing leaders. And, you know, I heard that going through the program, and it was true. And then I would actually say that to the teams that I coached, and everybody would just go, yeah, okay, whatever. And then after the interviews, they would definitely report back that it was truly inspiring. And so the two people I interviewed, one was Tony Mestres of the Seattle Foundation at the time. He shared his leadership journey and really talked about philanthropy. And it was so interesting to learn how our society, even you think of philanthropy as being a great thing, and he outlined, there are great things, and there are also challenges with philanthropy being the solution to everything, and why it's easier for a billionaire to give a university money to build a building than it is to really allocate that money towards more meaningful change. So it was really a profound discussion on my part. The other person I interviewed was Angela Stoll, had a fair start and really got into tipping. I mean, I grew up in the restaurant business, and tipping was just second nature. But she talked about why the origins of tipping were racially based, and how and why they got rid of tipping at their restaurants or her restaurants. And so really great things like that. And in the end, lots of great things. I had a profound experience. It led me to continue my journey. LT connected me to a nonprofit board where I'm now president of that nonprofit board. So my journey continues.
I guess I'll go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Tisha Held. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Philanthropy and BECU Foundation manager. And I want to address some of the questions in the chat first before I go into it too much. And I think I can kind of fold this in, telling you my story, my experience. So I was in audit prior at BECU, and I was looking for a way to try to align my values of equity and security in my day-to-day. And I was feeling very frustrated. And so I was on this personal journey, still am, of really kind of learning who I am as a person, how I show up, how I contribute, and trying to learn things that I was not being exposed to. And so I had a number of people who, knowing what my journey was, also knowing some of the things I'm trying to learn and grow into, suggested LT to me, that I would be an experience that would probably help me with that. So I came into LT with not trying to be a DE&I expert, because that's not what's going to happen. Not trying to become some great leader, but really learn more about myself and learn about my world around me in a way that I probably hadn't had access or exposure to before. And so one of the questions was, how do participants of color experience the way you all approach conversations about race? And so I will say everybody will come into it differently. And you have to decide what your boundaries are and what you feel safe doing. There is a number of caucuses. There is the Black caucus, there's the White caucus, and then there's a people of color caucus. So they're broken up in three. And so you do have those spaces where you can go in, where you have people who look like you, reflect you, have similar experiences, who you can sit down with and at times kind of go, you know what, that conversation was rough for me. Or I don't know what these people are talking about, because that's not my life experience. Or, wow, I need someone to have my back in this conversation. Or kind of go, that was a really interesting and powerful, profound way of thinking. I want to unpack that with you in this safe space where I have time and I don't have the eyes or lens of me trying to be perfect or sound a certain way. And all those spaces are there for you for that. So I will say you have those large group spaces where I learned where my voice was. I had an opportunity, because of some of the struggles we had last year with anti-Blackness and how we talked about anti-racism. And I will say that LT was very receptive. The staff, management were very open to our critiques and our questions and suggestions on how we think it can grow. And so as you're coming into this as new individuals with new perspectives, new experiences, you may look at things a lot differently and want something different from that experience. And so LT is growing and evolving. It's a living, breathing adjustment to what's going on in our world. So hopefully I addressed that as much as I could. The other one is, how long has the focus on racial equity, learning, and skill development been a part of LT? I was just a part of it last year, and talking to some of the alumni, they will say that this was a part of it from the very beginning. And so, but I think also too, what you need to realize is that as we grow and evolve as a culture, as we shift and change off of needs of our environment, whether that's political, whether that's socioeconomic, whether that's looking at the systems of education and finance and environment and all those pieces, those conversations shift and they evolve. And as we learn together in a community, then we either shift how we think, which we can help elevate and lift everyone up, or people are going to fall off and feel uncomfortable. And so you have to realize, again, like I said before, LT is constantly and growing and evolving as well. So this leadership experience is not just about them leading you, it's about how you're learning about yourself as a leader, which I think goes into one of the other questions is, can you talk more about the leadership development aspects of the program? And so what I would have noticed is that there's people who are type A's who come in there who are like, all right, let's get this done. And you will see that when you become part of your lab teams. You'll learn really quickly who that person is who's like, okay, let's schedule this, let's do that, who's always talking. Be aware of that. Is that you? Do you need to maybe step back a little bit and go, how can I lead as a listener versus someone who's always taking charge? And then there's those individuals who are going to step back because they're like, I'm just floating. I'm just going to I've got work to do over here. I'm tired. I got my family. I can only do so much. But what I will say, though, about this opportunity is that you get to really learn about leadership and how to stretch yourself in experiences that a lot of times you don't have in the work environment. Because not all of us work with teams, number one. Not all of us work across different divisions. But then also you have this really biosphere, microcosm of just all these different people who you don't know, who you need to lean into, I shouldn't say need, who you have the opportunity to really have a level of transparency and leaning into uncomfortable spaces and challenging. And so coming into this, I will say, how do you want to show up in this experience? I think I said this to the last group, like, what is it that you want out of this? Be really clear about that, but also be really clear about, how do I want to show up? Do I want to be someone who's there to learn and to share? Or am I there to just talk about my experience only? Are you wanting to be a sponge and absorb and really gain something from this? Or you're coming into this saying, well, I know this already. Because you're going to miss out on some really great opportunities if you're already coming in with these blinders on of thinking that you got this, regardless of what level you are. We are all growing and learning. There's always opportunities. And when there's something that's uncomfortable for you, the first question I would ask you in that leadership development is, why am I uncomfortable? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I reacting to this? What's going on for me? What has been my experience? What is my learned behaviors? What is it that I am surrounded with? Who am I surrounded with that is keeping these thoughts continuous for me? And how can I start to unpack that? And who can I talk to maybe in this group that can help me be more open to that? I think, is there another question in? Did I miss anything?
I think I'm gonna jump in and grab some, but
Sure.
thank you for that.
I was trying to cover, but I mean, I am open to any more questions, or if you want to just kind of reach out. And LT was a great experience for me. I really learned a lot about myself, but then also learned how important it is for me to show up and be in spaces and to support the overall process the best that I can.
Thank you so much, Tisha.